at all?
Oh, there it is. All right, we're live. Just give it like 10 seconds.
Hey guys, hey girls. Thanks for joining us, Young Gun Umpires. Sorry for the technical difficulties for those of you that are joining us. We appreciate your patience and your support in our group. Today, obviously, I come to you with Sean Garrisay, Nick Swaha, and Nobu Gotu. Today, we're going to talk about some crew communication. We're really excited about this one. This is not a lot of this is not black and white. This is through experience. This is what we've learned from our mentors, our supervisors. We're really passionate about this. We believe that this sole purpose here, from everything that we're going to talk about, from pregame to during game to even post game and being a good partner, we believe that takes your game to the next level. So we're excited to bring this to you. We hope that you have some questions for us. We'll be keeping track of that through our live feed, and we'll answer them as we go. Big discussions here, a lot of great knowledge, and we hope that you enjoy it. So for our crew communication, the type of communication we're going to talk about today is prior to game, our pregame, which is actually we're going to talk about before we go on the field, during game, whether it's signals, rotations, drop third strikes, and anything else that has to do with that, crew consultation as well. And like I said, being a good partner. So the first thing we're going to cover is prior to game, and we'll open it up for discussion, and we'll start off with Nobu.
Thanks, Jake. Really, prior to game communication and preparation really starts. It doesn't start 10 minutes before the game. It doesn't start right after you put your gear on and you're about to hit the field. It really starts far before that, the night before, the day before. And it's all about establishing a line of contact between you and your partner or partners. Not only that, not only your partners, it's also important to have a line of communication with, if you're working a college game, the athletic director of the school you're working for and whatnot. But really the first point of communication should be one umpire contacting the other and discussing what time is the game, where will they be parking, how will they get there, what color are they going to wear. It's all important to establish that early in order to avoid any potential trouble and problems that might occur, so you can mitigate that before it becomes an issue that affects your game.
Something to think about. I know especially down here, the less that I want to be the guy that the less my assigner hears about me or from me, that means the less trouble I'm in. So the more stuff that we can handle between me and my partner in the schools, the better off we are.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of Nobu, what he said, just something that I go over whenever I contact my partner before the day before. And traditionally, I'm 24 hours before. If I'm doing a college game, I send an email out 2-3 days beforehand, just so all the coaches and the ADs are on the same tab as all of us, just to know where we're going, the time and everything. But what I like to really go over is contingency plans, just in case something goes wrong. If you get stuck in traffic, especially because we're more focused on high school level umpires. So, and there's always the time of day games are like 4:30. So a lot of us can't get there an hour beforehand, which is ideal. So just having that chain of communication, if something goes wrong, knowing how to get out of that, what is our plan going to be if something does go wrong?
So yeah, I think that we've really covered it as far as prior to game goes. Understand that once again, this is the kind of stuff that takes your game to the next level. One of the favorite things that I'm gonna talk about dealing with this crew communication is going to be being a good partner, and this is one of the first steps in doing that. So prior to game stuff is really important, and as Nobu said, he hit the nail on the head. Your game, the preparation to that starts 24 hours in advance with your communication with your partner. And from that point on, now you've started your prep to that game. And then as you get closer, obviously things turn into our mindset. And now we're going to get into the next step, which is our pregame meeting. I think, and also I like the way that Nick says it, it's one of the most underutilized aspects of being an umpire. And it truthfully is. We see videos that pop up, and the most recent one is a catch where we have two umpires making the same call. And I know that is a tough play, and but it starts with communication, and people who underestimate the fact that 24 hours in advance starts, well, then we run into problems like that. So Sean, you want to add anything to start us off with our pregame meeting?
Yeah, guys. I mean, this is probably one of the most important things to kind of kick off our talk here, is making sure you guys have a solid pregame, covering that whole situation of catch, no catch, fair foul, and kind of what you guys are going to do in that game to be proactive about handling a certain situation that may pop up during that game. For the most part, I mean, you're gonna talk about who's got what, and certain situations that might pop up, or situations that have happened in prior games, and kind of talk about how you guys are going to handle that. And so this is kind of the biggest start to what Jacob said, is being a good partner, having that good solid pregame meeting with your partner. And this is when you guys first show up to the field. So I'm going to kick it back to you guys.
Yeah, Nobu, if you want to chime in or something, because you're the one here that has the pro school experience, what do they say about communication, how vital it is before the game and all that stuff?
Yeah, it's extremely vital, and it's stressed really heavily in school, especially since once you get into professional baseball and work with bigger crowds, especially on the field, you don't always have the luxury of hearing each other and just yelling at each other that, oh, I'm going out, or I'm staying in, I'm staying home, things like that. So a big emphasis that's taught in pro school is that you also have to reinforce your nonverbal communication. It's really important to look at each other and be cognizant and aware of where all your partners are and whatnot. And I suppose one of the luxuries per se of working on a crew during the season is that in professional baseball, you will always be with your partner. You'll be working with the same person every single day, and it almost becomes easier the higher you go up, because as you work games with your partner and you develop a on-field relationship with them, it almost becomes second nature. You'll know exactly where and when he or she will be at as you go deeper into the season. So it's almost it almost becomes easier as you move up the ladder in baseball.
Right, guys, and great knowledge from all three of those guys, especially the pro school aspect. We talk about nonverbal communication. Those are things that are often not talked about. For me, outside of the Luke Weems, Alex Zigglers of the world down here by me that I've been so blessed and fortunate to be able to be mentored by, there's a guy named Steve Orcus who's a Division I basketball official. He works in the SEC, and I have single-handedly watched him run a pregame with two guys that there's no question that they are maybe lesser than him, but he has been able to give them every confidence in the world to say, hey guys, we've got this under control. I've got your back. This is what we're going to talk about. And this is what we're going to do if this happens and if this happens. And that's our pregame meeting. So now we're fully prepared. As my offensive line coach would say, prior preparation prevents poor performance. And that's got to be a big thing that we've got to translate to this level. So it's great advice from everybody in our pregame meeting. Now we're going to get into kind of during game communication. As Nobu said, various forms, both verbal and nonverbal. I believe that as well as these other three guys, it's pretty vital to the crew's success. You have to understand that if as much as we're talking and you know, and letting each other know the little things matter. Hey, I'm at third, right? Whatever it may be. I'm one of those guys that likes to talk fly balls, and I try to be low key. You know, people are going to tell you different things. People are going to say, "Oh, the outfielder's going to do this and that." Well, I think the outfielder and whoever should worry about catching the baseball, right? Guys, if you want to add anything on to during game.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of stuff that we do that's not really noticed by anybody except us, and it's very important that those things that we do, either the verbal or nonverbal, are very concise. They're very efficient in their manner and effective, so that no matter how many umpires are on that field, we all know who's in charge of what, and who's got the ball, and who's got that play, or who's got that base. So we just got to be very concise in what we do to make sure that every little thing we have responsibility for is covered. I don't know if anybody else wants to jump on that.
Yeah, if I could add on to that point, Nick. One of my mentors, Fred DeJesus, has always told me, you have to umpire the game you're assigned to. And what does that mean, especially in terms of what we're talking about today, is that you have to be flexible and you have to work with what you're given. You know, I've done numerous games here where I live in New York where we don't have foul lines. And that changes everything. It changes how we pregame, and it changes how we work during a game. So it's really important, obviously, to have that mental checklist of what you want to go over and what you want to, how you want to work. But it's also just as critical to be flexible and adapt to the current situation you're in. Where in the example I gave, perhaps the plate umpires taking all fair fouls. Even with no one on, to give an example. So baseball umpiring will never ever be concrete. And the best umpires are always able to adapt to and make the most out of what they're working with.
Yeah, and we actually had a meeting yesterday to go over this video. And I brought up the point that football referees, soccer referees, rugby officials, all those guys, for the most part, are mic'd up. They have a line of communication between all of them. And sometimes they're even hot mic'd. And we don't really get that with baseball umpires. I think it's more for the fact that we're so condensed together, but we should treat it as such that, hey, we need to be verbal sometimes. We need to look over sometimes. We need to make sure that we know what we're doing. So.
You know, guys, and it's actually, it reminds me, he just texted me, everybody. A lot of people know in this area of, you know, a lot of people are in connection with Greg Mattioli. And going back to pregame meeting, I was in Cooperstown, and Greg has become, you know, one of my favorite mentors. And my thing used to be listening to music. And, you know, I would dance around and, you know, yada, yada, yada. And
you still do.
Yeah. I still do from time to time. But until Mattioli walks over and he says, Jacob, turn off the damn music and get your mind right. And I'll never forget that ever for the rest of my life. And for whatever reason, you know, obviously we all have our okay games, our bad games, our good games. But for whatever reason, I turned the music off. I sat down. I actually thought about my rotations and everything. And I feel like I feel like a 12-year-old baseball game that I did was like, I was just so in sync. I was like, I didn't miss a beat. I hustled, and you know, and you walk back in the bunkhouse and you tell Mattioli, hey, Greg, thanks. And he goes, yeah, it's all right to listen to the old man every now and then. So always enjoy that with Greg. I had to say that and go back to that. So thankful for Greg and everything that he's doing. Appreciate you watching, Greg. Next thing we're going to get into is signals. So these are all of our nonverbal stuff, right, that we get into when we're in the middle of the game, talking about during game communication. We have our rotation signals. Obviously, those apply to first and third situations. Me and Nick Swaz's favorite timing play, one-out timing play, which is not often used by some people. I know, Nick, you want to you want to piggyback off of that.
Something that people don't realize that it's a thing. So,
but obviously our 2-out timing play and our 1-out timing play. There are situations that we use them for. We have our infield fly signals, and these are all in our NFHS rule book, right? So if we need to refer to them, they're there. They're concrete, black and white, and so we're protected by those. And obviously, the last thing that we talk about is our double tag situation, first and second on the double tag, obviously, and we'll get into all that next with rotation communication. Nobu, you want to start us off?
Yeah, before we get in there, I just want to just chime in one quick thing on signals is that I think we all sometimes need to be reminded that you have to signal with a purpose, right? It's not about just going through the motions and pointing over there, and I feel like a lot of times in amateur baseball with umpires, the timing play signal just becomes something we automatically do with 2 outs. And it's just a reminder. Almost becomes a reminder that it's 2 outs, and it's when it's really supposed to be keeping us in check for the potential of a timing play, which, like Nick said, could happen with 1 out. And it comes across the board to any signal in any situation, right? When I was in the Coastal Plain League, one of the first things an evaluator told my crew is that you guys need to look at each other when you signal. It's, signal with a purpose, make eye contact, tell each other where you're going and where he's going. And that's critical. Otherwise, there would be no point in doing so.
Yeah, there's 2 things I have on that. One is you said that you have to signal with a purpose, but we also have to remember that there's a purpose for these signals that we have to remember also. So, like, we have to signal these and know that, hey, I'm not just signaling it because I have to. I'm signaling this so I know and my partners know that I have responsibility for this or whatever happens. I have that. And 2 is I see it a lot up here is that there's a lot of guys and women that have all these like fancy signals that go all out and everything. We don't have to do that. We can be very just like boom, signal. But we have to have a purpose and everyone has to know what we're doing. So
I like Nobu and Nick's thought process. That's why I love this forum that we do here when we go live. It allows all 4 of us to think on a different level. There's a thought process behind those signals, right? So everything that Nobu said, everything that Nick said, it makes you think. It makes you start to understand. Well, there's a lot more to this besides just doing it. So the things to take away from this are signaling with a purpose, making eye contact when we're signaling, and most importantly, there's no need to, I guess you could say, be a spectacle. It's very short and concrete. Me and my partner need to know. I don't need the person in row number 18, seat 4, to know that I've got first and second on a base hit that leaves the infield with momentum. Okay, so I like that a lot. And if anybody else has anything to add on signals.
Yeah, I think that Nick hit on it, and it's really important. Your signals don't have to be this huge production. I mean, really, this is also something that you're going to cover in that pregame meeting with your partner. You're going to talk about your signals that you're going to use in the game. And in all reality, it doesn't need to be a big production. You're not there to be the star of the show. You're there to umpire the ball game. And if you get out of there without anybody recognizing who you are, you did your job. So, the simpler the signals, I think the better off you guys are going to be.
So I think that's it on signals. Appreciate everybody hitting the nail on the head there. That's good for guys to take away from that. So now we're going to get into rotation communication. We're going to talk about the 4 situations on our rotations, and maybe Nobu, Sean, and Nick. Maybe we can get into a few things on where the ball is hit. If you want to, maybe talk about leaving the infield with momentum, stuff like that. We'll start off with no one on base. If you want to start, Nick.
Yeah, so nobody on base. the outfield coverage and stuff, we have that responsibility, right? The plate umpire has basically all the outfield unless the base umpire goes out. And what I like to see here is the base umpire really take that time, because that pause, read, react, we might not think about it but it's a signal in itself. It's saying, hey, I'm here and I'm watching this ball. And then the plate umpire can dictate what he's going to do off of that. He can watch him, because a lot of what we do is nonverbal, watching each other, knowing where each other is at. Pretty much with nobody on, that's pretty much it. If I'm forgetting something, but anybody else?
Something I want to add too, to make sure that what we're talking about is that, and we're going to get into this when, we get into my slide, which all three of these guys know I'm very passionate about being a good partner. And I believe that is the one thing that separates you from the rest of the pack. When you're talking about that everybody can umpire, everybody can call balls and strikes out and safe, is that your partner is reading you most of the time. That's what it all boils down to, especially when you're talking about getting into a 3 and 4 man system. You can't just go off of black and white. If the guy at second base, sees doesn't see the ball the way that you see it, and you're just reading the ball, and you're the guy at first base, and it's a gapper in right center field, and that second base guy jets in, well, somebody's going to go out on the baseball. The same thing here. If you're the plate guy and you're the base guy, and you see the ball it's a shot in the right field, and it's a catch no catch dive, and you're just jetting in, the plate guy, you got to get out there. You got to get outside the circle, because you're making a catch. You're coming up hard. I got to catch or no catch, and you got to come sell it, because you are away from the play. So that's important to understand, that your partner is reading you, and that's how it should be taught when we're talking about umpiring and getting to the next level. We're not just reading the baseball; we're reading our partner most importantly.
Yeah, I'll interject here. So what I do is, if I'm the plate umpire in 2, 3, or 4, whatever I'm working, as soon as the ball's hit, I will look where, if it's not in my primary, I will look at my partner to see what he's doing, or she. I will make sure, because that dictates what I'm in charge of. So
being a good partner, that all goes into it. And it's not about, because at the end of the day, how the crew performs is how you perform. So if you make the crew look good, number one, you're creating great rapport with your partners. You're creating great rapport with your assignment secretary. We're not getting phone calls. Your supervisor's not sending emails. And now everybody's stayed out of trouble. And it's like, hey, guy, hey, man, beer on me. Appreciate it,
Yeah.
Nobu, if you want to go ahead and add anything.
Yeah, I think you absolutely hit the nail on the head there. It takes a really high level of confidence as an umpire to take your eyes off the baseball, right? It's something we're all trained to do. It's something we even talked about in our earlier presentation. Keep your chest to the ball, watch the ball. That's where everything that can get you in trouble on the baseball field happens with the baseball. So our natural instinct is that's what we're going to watch. So it takes a really high level of game sense. And that's why it's so important for umpires to stay a step ahead of the game they're working, because you need to be able to take your eyes off the ball for a split second and check your partner, and then come back to it and not be lost and still know exactly where it is. So and that's why so many supervisors and assigners will want to see you own the game and let the game slow down in front of you.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is being able to read your partner, and that whole pause, read, and react that I know we talked about a little bit last week. That's going to take you a long way, being able to build that sense in and kind of understand what else is going on.
Yeah, so I think we've got some great knowledge on there. Just want to touch on, make sure we're understanding when we talk about rotation communication. There are 4 times according to the book that both umpires are moving most of the time, which we should be moving on all plays, right? Working to get our angles over distance, especially when start talking about it in a 2-man system. But no one on base, obviously. When the ball's hit, we've got runner on first only. We've got runner on first and second, and then runner on first and third. So make sure we're highlighting those things, and we're understanding that those are the times where we have to be on heightened measures along with knowing our count, knowing our base runners, and all that stuff comes into play when you start talking about moving as an umpire. Also trusting your partner. Hey man, am I giving myself a peek to make sure that guy's rotating up to third, whatever it may be. If anybody had anything else to add on rotation communication.
Yeah. So one of the things I've gotten myself into is no matter what, making sure that if I'm the base umpire, looking over my shoulder to see if my plate umpire is coming up. That's just a habit that I've gotten into. And it's a good habit. And I feel like all of us need to get into that just in case our partner, God forbid, falls or just forgets or something happens down at the plate that he can't get up to third. Now we have responsibility for third because what it comes down to, Jacob keeps saying, is being a good partner. We have to cover each other's backs. If something happens, we got to be there. So just doing that glance, that nonverbal communication saying, hey, I'm looking to see if you're coming up over my shoulder. And if he is, great. If he's not, okay, then I got to get on top of that. So.
Yeah, love the knowledge, man. It all goes back to what I'm going to finish up with on our last slide of being a good partner. I really like that a lot. And again, you have to have this thought process. It's not a me thing. It's an us thing, right? Because at the end of the day, we're all on one team. This brother and sisterhood, make sure that we understand that we're all working on this together, especially, the people that are trying to get to the next level. For me, my hashtag is working to get the next hat, right? I'm working to wear the next hat. For me, it's minor league baseball. For Nick, it's a minor league baseball hat. For Nobu, same thing. He's trying to get to the next level. He's trying to get to that A ball. He's trying to do all that stuff, right? So, my point being is that it's an us thing. It's making the crew look good. Be a crew guy. That's all you have to do. So that's getting to the next level. Nick, you got something to add?
No.
All right. I want to get into drop third strike. I want Nobu to really get into this. Nobu, make sure we touch on plate umpire signals and what you think the base umpire exactly should be doing here on these drop third strikes. And if anybody has anything else to add, we'll do that. So take it away, Nobu.
Yeah, absolutely. There's one play in baseball where if the umpire crew fails in communication, somebody will get hung out to dry. And it's usually the person not doing the communication isn't the one that has to bear the consequences of it. So that's why it is so critical that the crew communicates when this happens. And where does it start? You have a swinging strike, called third strike, whatever it is, and you have a baseball on the ground. It's just picturing yourself as a base umpire in the two-man system. It's usually the first thing that comes up is a big question mark. Did he hit it? Is it a strike? If it's a check swing, is it a swing? Do I have to rule an appeal on it? It's a lot of question marks, and you obviously don't want to do anything that would contradict what your plate umpire has, which is why it's so important as the plate umpire that you communicate with the rest of your crew and convey to the crew and everyone else there of what just happened. I believe it's Game 5 of the 2002 World Series. There was just a breakdown in communication between the umpires and the fielders that let a critical batter reach first base, and it affected the game. So where it all comes down to is the plate umpire coming up with a good pointing strike. If it's a check swing, either immediately saying it's a swing or making it abundantly clear that he is going to an appeal to his partner. It's you never want to be in a situation as the base umpire where your partner is calling a swing and you're coming up with a safe for a no swing because you thought he was coming to you for help instead of he was pointing to the batter saying he swung. And it all rolls back to the pregame communication of what am I going to do when I'm coming up to come up to you for a check swing, right? And then after that, after the batter's running, it's critical that the plate umpire still indicates it's a drop third strike with a nice big safe mechanic so that when the throw comes to first, the base umpire knows to give a safe or out mechanic and it's not the case of an out happening at home plate. So it really comes down to when a drop third strike happens. As a plate umpire, do not let your partner hang to dry, because if you don't communicate, your partner will pay for it, not you.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest things you need at pregame is what happens if the plate umpire doesn't know if it was dropped or not. Because that's where a lot of the times the naughty plays happen, especially in two-man when everyone's got a lot of responsibilities on their hand. So this could go unchecked. So feel free to jump in, but I'm always taught as the base umpire, if I see that ball on the ground, put my hand out to the side, open or closed. If it's caught, close it. If it's dropped, put it open, so that we all know. Even the coaches, a lot of the college coaches now know that signal, and they look for it, so they all know. So that's just something to help each other out, to communicate with each other. Hey, I have it on the ground. I have a catch. So.
Yeah, something to think about too. And we obviously haven't talked about this in this video, but also the other level of communication that is important is with our players and our coaches, right? Our managers. And that is giving clear and concise signals, being clear and concise with our voice, our positioning, our understanding of the rules, all that stuff. And that stuff starts before the game, right? Our understanding of our rules knowledge, where we're supposed to go, where we're supposed to be, and then obviously our voice and our signals. So that's creating good communication with our players and coaches. And again, that goes back to being a good partner. That's less problems. That's less drama. We got less phone calls, and it's oh, Jacob's doing well, man. I haven't heard anything bad from him. Oh, Nobu's doing well, man. Oh, Nick's doing well. Sean's doing well, So all good things to think about and to talk about. I believe that's it for us on Drop Third Strike. We're going to move over to crew consultation basics. I want to get into two major questions when you're talking about the basics of crew consultations. We could get into a huge video, I'm sure, and talk for hours on consultation. There's a great video of Jeff Head in a Vanderbilt game. Still forget who was playing, but guy from Vanderbilt comes up. It's a play where it's pitcher's coming over. We got a tag on the shoulder. Both players are falling off to the side. We have an out. Jeff doesn't stay with the play. He realizes, oh man, the ball's on the ground, and it's my bad, and he's safe, which is a great realization by Jeff. So they get together, and the first thing Jeff says is one by one going to those three guys, hey man, what do you have? And asking the same question. And from that point, they get to the rules knowledge of the play. Are we protected by this rule if we make this call? The rules are there to protect us and help us, not hurt us. So it's not making up our own interpretation of the rule. It's not doing any of that. But I just wanted to share that video. It's a great video to go watch. Jeff is a great umpire to watch and learn from. Enjoy watching him work. But the two questions I want to talk about are what to get together on and what not get together on. I want Nick to touch on those things, and anybody else has anything to add, feel free.
Yeah, just feel free to jump in, guys, if throughout this whole thing, because crew consultation is a huge aspect, and there's a lot of stuff we can get together on. And I feel like nowadays there's more pressure on us to get together on things, just because a lot of the stuff is videoed. Even in the high school level, we can't go to replay, but hey, a lot of the stuff is on video, and they can use that against us. So. But as we know, like that, the forced play, those calls, we really can't get together on. But the swipe tag, anything that's naughty, the swipe tag, the pulled foot, just maybe that ball's on the ground, all that sort of stuff, we can get together on. And in two-man, that's vital because we got a lot going on. And any help that we can get, I'm going to take as a umpire in either position. I'm going to take anything. So, Nova, you got anything, Sean?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I'll just jump in real quick. They're also, I like Sean what you just touched on with the swipe tags, because there are a lot of cases where you can avoid a crew consult. You can have a softer crew consultation that doesn't involve both of you coming together completely, right? There was if the crew has a productive pregame and addresses this, because this, what I'm about to say, isn't something you want to just throw on your partner. But say you have a play with a pulled foot, and if your base umpire has it correct initially, and you hear players and coaches clamoring for your partner to get help, um, feel free to shut it down right there. Say, yeah, he got it right. That's absolutely correct.
No, but sorry to interrupt, but all I can think of right now is Mansfield. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's exactly what I was referencing because because as a part and Nick and I were able to do that in that game because we had a productive pregame there. We had worked with each other prior to, and I knew that if I did it to him or if he did it to me, neither of us would have been surprised, right? We would have been completely okay with it. No one would have gotten blindsided. So the advantages of that is it prevented an elongated crew consultation from happening, and the inevitable that the other team's coach coming out and giving a long explanation there would have probably happened, and that all was avoided because Nick just came up saying, yes, he got it right. He's absolutely right. There's no need to get help on that. So I just thought that was really just a good proactive thing we were able to do there, to take a situation where we could have gotten help and taken a lot of time doing it, maybe took a shot to our credibility, but just immediately eliminated that, and the game continued.
Yeah, Sean, you got anything?
Yeah, I mean, one of the hardest things at an early stage of umpiring can be learning when to get together with your crew, and sometimes you overutilize it, and you really got to be kind of careful as far as not undermining your partner's credibility, but at the same point not undermining your own credibility, and really being focused and kind of aware of the situation of the game. And if you need help, and you go to your partner and you ask, hey, what do you got? Like these guys said, we could probably have an hour-long conversation just on crew consultations. So I'm not going to get too deep into it, but the biggest thing is get together with your partner when you need to in a situation that requires it.
And one of the things that I want to add to that video that I talked about with Jeff Head, and some people will say when you're talking about telling coaches that come out and ask for help and you're going to go get help on that play, is the first thing that everybody thinks of is, do I really need to tell this coach that he needs to go back to the dugout and not come back out? But I'm a big believer in letting him know and reminding him of that. Had the same situation where we didn't do it in a high school playoff game. Almost came to bite the crew back in the butt, and but we handled it well. But Jeff, in that same video, tells the coach when Mike comes out from Vanderbilt and says, "Hey, Mike, now you got to know, no matter what happens, you got to stay in the dugout. You can't come back out on this call." And that's the last thing I just wanted to add to those crew consultation basics. We're going to finish up with our last slide here. Being a good partner. I'm very passionate about this because I'm a guy who is always working to separate myself from the pack, right? Not being an average middle of the road guy. There's plenty of guys like that. You got to separate yourself, and that's both on and off the field, right? So that has everything to do with being on time, and especially in two-man systems, just helping on no catches that aren't yours. It's always nice to have that base guy that's running in on that diving catch from center field. You've got a good angle, seeing sideways on the baseball. He's looking dead at it. So helping out with little things like that. Always offering up any information that you have. So whatever it may be, I know that we have our mechanics in high school that do this. In my pregame, I will let my partner know that if I've got nothing, I'll have my hands in my back pocket, kind of facing away from the situation. And if I have something, I'll have my hands out, walking towards and taking 2 or 3 steps, maybe letting him know that if the coach is out there, and more importantly, if nobody's coming out, nobody's saying anything, and even if you see something differently, leave it be. It's not yours. It's not for anybody else, right?
Yeah.
If it's not being questioned, we're not going to answer the question.
Yeah, and sorry to interrupt, but unless it's something that's like game altering that nobody really notices except us, like that ball went out of play or something, I feel like that swipe tag that nobody really complains about, that maybe we need to get together, and we don't have to because nobody's really complaining. But if that ball is just out of play and we see it and nobody else says, we got to grab that. So
I love the way that Nobu said, answering that question, if before you see things getting out of hand, and you adding, hey man, he got that play right, and I've had it happen to me before. I've had it happen as a young guy coming up, me working with the older guys saying, hey man, did Jacob really get that right? Hell yeah, Jacob got that right, and so that builds credibility. Now that coach is understanding that guy that he has respect for now is starting to have respect for you. For me, it's holding yourself accountable, admitting your wrongs, and it goes back to everything, to your look, to your appearance, to your timeliness, and those things come into play when you're talking about you as a crew. If everybody has equal credibility, we're going to have less problems, and that all starts with our appearance. That's the first thing that they talk about when we're talking, we're going to pro school, is our appearance, how we look, our field presence, things like that. So I'm a big guy on having each other's back no matter what happens. I'm a big believer in that. I don't believe in guys thrown under the bus. I see it all over these forums, unfortunately, about bashing each other and throwing each other under the bus. That's one of the reasons why we created this page, is to let everybody know that, hey man, that's not going to be allowed here. We're here to work together and get through this, right? We're here to make each other better. We're here to try to get to the next level. And it doesn't matter what it takes, how long it takes. All this stuff is a process. It takes time. There's no such thing as an overnight success. There are many nights that go into that first phone call, that interview, whatever it may be. Hey, you've been called up. All those minor league umpires know what I'm talking about. The college guys that got their first Division I conference series, they all know what I'm talking about, and we all four are looking forward to hopefully expecting those calls one day. Over communication, I said earlier in the video, talked about a Division I guy named Steve Orcas, and Steve is a self-made Division I SEC referee, and he works with a lot of guys that are whether they're from the G League, whether they're down from the NBA, guys that have been doing this for 30 plus years. So he has to separate himself from the pack. And the way that he does that is over communication, listening when he's not being spoken to, working with guys that are better than him, that have more experience, that are veterans, and also stepping up when it's time for him to step up. All four of us know that we're going to be put in those situations as young umpires where we're going to start to be those guys. We're starting to become those guys that happen in the big time high school games and some of the college games. That we're putting us with the older guys, and we got to show them that we can step up. So that's what I talk about, all experience and being, and having a process and all those things. I think the last thing that I want to talk about being a good partner is, I guess, giving each other confidence, right? Hey man, great play, whatever it is. When we're walking, if you're walking down in between innings, whatever it may be. And so that all goes back into our post game. And I think Nick wants to touch on a little bit of the post game right now. Nick, you got anything?
Yeah, it just came into my head when we were talking about that, because you said you got to be honest with yourself, you got to have confidence in everything, and you just said it, give each other props and everything. But it also comes down to the fact that at the end of the game, just like at the beginning of the game, we got to communicate, and it's underutilized as well. And I'm guilty of it as well. I want to get out of there after the game. I want to like wash my hands and just get out of there. But we really need to sit down and talk about stuff. And if we have to get out of there, maybe get on the phone call at night or something, or get on a text chain. We got to talk about what happened, because that's where we get better. I just watched the officially connected video the other night, and they said something along the lines of every single play, every single person, every single encounter, you can take something out of, good or bad. So you need to find something that you can take to that post game to get better. And if you have that partner, we've all had them, that just pushes that stuff aside, well, we can learn something from that guy and not being that person, and really accepting the fact that, well, hey, we might have messed something up as a crew or just me, and we can learn from that. So
the last thing that I want to touch on too about being a good partner, two things. Like I said, and these three guys know that I'm a big proponent of separating yourself from the pack. Young guys, we have to work to do that. And talking with actually Nobu last night, the past 2 nights, really, him and a guy that all three of us know, and some of you other guys know, is Tyler Bullock, who I've gotten a lot of like drive from, is being your biggest critic. In order for, I believe, the key to success, one of the biggest keys to success, is being your own self-critic, critiquing yourself hard. I don't need you to tell me I had a great game when you believe I missed 10 pitches. I need, and most of the time we don't get that honesty unless we're working with personal friends, right? And even personal friends don't want to do that because nobody wants to be told that they had a bad game. But you've got to be honest with yourself, just like Nick said, and critique yourself in your own post game, not just with your partner, but with yourself. And that all goes back to second nature, and that helps us learn and understand and realize, hey man, now I know not to do that, or hey man, I've got to be better here in this aspect. Sean, you got anything?
Yeah. Going back to the post game, like Nick was talking about, I think that when we talk about holding ourselves accountable and, really looking at the game that we just umpired, if you can look back and truly say, yeah, I don't know about this and I need to go look it up, or even have that conversation with your partner, because maybe he's been in that situation before and maybe he can give you some better ways to handle that situation. Really talking to your partners after those games are crucial for getting better. And, even for myself, like I'll always ask my partners after a game, hey, what's something that I can work on to get better? What is one thing that you can give me that I didn't do well enough to make it to the next level? And really focusing on, trying to become a better umpire and taking as much feedback as you can from the partners that you work games with. I'm going to really quickly throw it over to Nobu.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. I just some great points by all the guys. I just wanted to just throw in my 2 cents right there. You look at any umpire that's successful, and one common denominator between any and all of them is that they're all a sponge, right? They will absorb and listen to anything and everything you have for them. Now, even the best sponges will let some water drop, and that's totally fine. That you don't necessarily apply to your game everything that you hear. Those are judgments that only you can make. But the key point is that at one point you absorb it and you let it go into your head, and you make your own decision on whether it applies to your game or not. You never brush it off of your shoulder. So I think that's always important, even if you don't want to hear it. You give it a listen, you give it a fair shot, and then you make your own decision on whether it applies to your game or not. And I know I'm going to throw it back to Jake.
I just want to say, I know this has been a longer video. I love working with these three guys. They've really become some of my best friends. I just want to put that out there. Somebody asked a question for me that said, define separating yourself from the pack. Most of you have heard my story about where I've come from. 3 to 4 years ago, I was in the darkest place of my life. And the word defining myself from the pack became a motto. I have a hat in my room, and it's a minor league hat. And I bought it from someone, and obviously I never wear it. but it sits and it's nailed to my, the wall that bangs up against my door. And that's the first thing I see when I wake up in the morning. It's the last thing I see when I walk out of the door. And it reminds me that for me, my journey right now is to become a minor league umpire. So when I say that, when I make decisions, I'm simply saying to myself, is this helping me be a minor league umpire? Whether it's what I'm putting in my body, whether it's my daily exercise, a decision that I'm making financially, keeping myself mentally stable, emotionally stable. Those things start way before the season does. Those things start with, is my rules knowledge up to date, right? Have I thought about plays that pop into my head? Have I talked to my mentor? When's the last time I had an elongated conversation? When's the last time I picked up the phone and called Phil or Greg or one of my other mentors, right? And physically, you can separate yourself also. That's work in the gym. And it's I going back to rules knowledge. Those are the things that when I say separating from the pack, what I mean, because everybody thinks, oh, I just got to call strikes and outs. Hell yeah, I want to call strikes and outs. But at the end of the day, I still have to know all the other things, which is being a good partner, my rules knowledge, my physicality, am I approachable? Is my communication with my partners good? Is my communication with my assignment secretary, with my supervisors good, right? With my mentors? Am I being totally honest with myself and what I'm doing on the field on a daily basis? All those things can separate yourself from the pack, because at the end of the day, my schedule is a direct reflection of me. End of story. I'm a true believer in it, and I'm thankful that I learned it at a young age. So I think that about sums it up for me about separating myself from the pack. I think, yeah, Sean.
Yeah. So to kind of go off of what Jacob was saying is, separating yourself from the pack is, what are you doing to stand out from the other 200 or so umpires that might be in your association? Like, are you working harder? Are you doing a better job? Are you, checking in with, guys and just other stuff like that. So I think to kind of get to the point of defining, really separating yourself from the pack is what are you doing personally to stand out from the rest of your association? Nick.
Yeah, especially us younger guys, we've had to come through the ranks quite fast, and we've had to make a name for ourselves. And we do that by having goals, having a mission, having something that we can define ourselves by and going towards it, so that we can not just be proud of ourselves, but other people can look onto us, be proud of it, and we can move up quicker. We've had all four of us have had our own paths and done our own umpiring, but we've all had similar struggles and similar I don't know, but like, it's the same thing with newer guys too. They gotta be able to define who they are pretty quickly if they want to survive in this, and know what their goal is in the end. So
yeah, I think that that's everything that everybody touched on. Again, going back to separating yourself from the pack, we all know the difficulty that we're facing with getting to the collegiate level at conference play for most things. There's a lot of AAA guys coming down, AA guys coming down, single A guys coming down, and those guys are far more trained than the everyday self-made umpire is tough, man. It's a tough road. It's a tough road regardless of where you go, but especially when you've gotten closer to the top, it's easier to come down. So that's why it's so important to separate yourself at a young age. That's really important to me. It's really important to all four of us, you young guys. I hope you guys understand that. If you have any questions, please message any four of us, message the page. We're here for you. And we're still learning ourselves, but we're trying to give you as much knowledge as we can and everything that we know. I appreciate all four of these guys. I'm going to throw it back to Nick to end it. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah. Thanks, Jacob. Nobu, Sean, thanks for everything and the insight that you come with. Just want to thank everyone for coming on tonight. Hope hope you all are staying safe. Your families are staying safe through this all. And as we just saw, Cape Cod just ended their season. So it seems like we got more and more summer leagues coming down and getting cut. So the more we do on the off end of getting on here to this page or other pages and getting in the rule book, so when we get on the field eventually, the better off we'll be. And I would just like to give a little run through of what this page is going to have in the coming weeks. So this coming week, we're going to have our two-man discussion. So we're going to have Tuesday, Thursday. We're going to have videos and PowerPoints about how the two-man system works and how we communicate through there. And that's why we decided to put the communication before the two-man, because communication directly goes into two-man. And then, as you all saw, we now have, starting in May, we're going to have a video cast series called Off the Plate. And we have quite a few people in line right now in the NCAA, in the high school level, and even the minor league level that are going to join us to give any insight that they have to help newer and younger umpires come up through the ranks. And if you guys have any questions and you want to get onto those videos, feel free, and they're more than happy to help. Other than that, if you guys have anything, nothing. Hope you all have a great night and have a great weekend all. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.